What's it like being treated like a dirty old man with an endless money glitch? The poor but pure campus belle I was sponsoring got into a car accident and lost her memory. I immediately prepared a fruit basket to visit her, but the next second, a row of bullet comments appeared right before my eyes. They said, "The female lead's childhood sweetheart has returned from abroad. She used this amnesia trick just to get rid of the dirty old man. First, she pretends to lose her memory and breaks up with the dirty old man. Then she gets back together with her first love. The dirty old man goes crazy with jealousy and practically throws his fortune at her, begging her to remember him again." Another bullet comment popped up. "Do you guys think the male supporting role will find out she's faking her amnesia?" A reply came quickly. "No way. The female lead got her pretentious coquette bestie to help her. There's no way he'll find out." I knew it. The one they called the dirty old man must be me, about to hit my 30th birthday in 2 years. But what the bullet comments didn't know was this. I was already sick of this poor campus belle type. I'd been looking for a reason to dump her, and now she had handed me the perfect excuse. I turned around and texted her pretentious coquette best friend. "$500,000 per month. Be my girlfriend. Deal or not?" She replied instantly, "Darling, 100,000 is enough. $500,000 is too much. I wouldn't feel comfortable taking that." Later that night, her best friend and I were entangled until midnight. Suddenly, we heard the female lead screaming outside the door, her voice tearing through the night. "Darling, my memory's back. If you just look back at me once, I'd give you my life." Her best friend curled her lip and muttered with disgust, "Life. Useless things like that aren't worth a dime." Chapter 1. In the third year of keeping Maria as my mistress, I started to grow tired of her. Her once innocent face had turned worldly. Her cold temperament had become hard to tame. After the passage of time, the noble moon finally evolved into a soft, squishy grain of white rice, the rice clinger. In this world, all love stories end the same way. Expressionless, I rubbed my temples and pulled out my phone. She'd been with me for years. Even if I was going to end it, I'd make sure she had enough money not to worry about survival. Just as I found her number, my phone rang first. "Hello, are you George?" Maria, or rather, my rice clinger, had never spoken so politely before. Puzzled, I asked, "Maria, what's wrong? What happened?" She interrupted impatiently. "I got into a car accident. Head trauma. I've lost my memory. My mind's back to 3 years ago, and the only person I remember is Makoto. As for you, I've deleted your number." Before I could ask another question, she hung up abruptly and blocked me, leaving me standing there, stunned. Moments later, a text message pinged, a spending alert from her secondary card, a private hospital. The amount wasn't high, nowhere near what a real emergency deposit would cost. So my rice clinger had lost her memory, deleted her sugar daddy, yet hadn't forgotten to keep spending my money. My heart wavered between anger and amusement. I quickly bought a 250 yuan fruit basket and drove to the hospital, following the transaction record. As soon as I stepped out of the car, dense bullet comments filled the sky again. The amnesia arc begins. The female lead is clever, with her true love back in town. She used a minor fender bender as a perfect excuse for this fake amnesia plot. Another comment appeared. The male side character thinks money makes him special, thinks spending on women gives him the right to play God. When he realizes she's forgotten him, he'll regret it deeply. He'll simp after her for a whole year, burning through half his fortune. Yet our female lead still won't even look at him. She'll string him along like a dog. And one more. Ugh. The male supporting role is disgusting. I just want to watch the sweet romance between the leads. Please, someone make this greasy old man log off already. Chapter 2. Thud. The 250 yuan fruit basket fell to the ground. I'd bought it too early. Judging from what the bullet comments said, I seemed to be the male supporting role in this world. My purpose of existence was to be a simp, a man who, upon hearing that the heroine lost her memory and forgot him, would immediately offer up his entire fortune just to make her remember him again. So much money, yet it only turned the poor campus belle into an independent, career-driven female protagonist. Meanwhile, I, consumed by jealousy and despair, would die miserably in a shabby rented apartment, drawing a perfect ending to my arrogant and overbearing life. In short, I was the stereotypical domineering CEO chasing his ex-wife in a strong female lead novel, throwing money like crazy to win her back, kneeling for forgiveness even after going bankrupt. The heroine, calm and self-assured, would accept everything with a smile and end it all by saying, "Who says independent women can't use men to gain resources? But I'm not an idiot. Am I crazy enough to hand over my entire fortune for some woman? If I'm spending money, I expect to be treated like a boss, not like a servant." Maria was just a canary I kept in a gilded cage. Why should I both pay her and provide her emotional support? I strode toward the hospital with long steps. A young nurse, clearly familiar with the routine, led me straight to the ward. Through the thin door's glass panel, I could clearly see Maria's triumphant face as she said, My childhood sweetheart came back from abroad. That's why I came up with this amnesia trick, to completely get rid of George. Willow, you have to help me keep this a secret. Chapter 3. My gaze naturally shifted to Willow. That was her best friend. Someone Maria had casually mentioned a few times before. I'd added her on WeChat back then but had never talked to her. Compared to Maria's pure, fragile, damsel in distress type, Willow was the exact opposite, seductive and mature, the embodiment of a sensual goddess. In the blazing summer heat, she wore an ultra-short pencil skirt, her shapely, smooth legs gleaming under the light, so dazzling they made my heart pound. And further up, her voluptuous chest practically crashed into my thoughts. Blood rushed through me. I fell in love. Such a perfect best friend. Yet Maria had kept her hidden from me for 3 years. Truly a rice clinger. Inside the room, Maria frowned impatiently and said, "Did you hear me?" Willow's sultry voice floated in response. "Aren't you afraid this game might backfire? That George will ignore you forever?" A confident smile appeared on Maria's delicate face as she said, "You don't understand. That dirty old man loves me to death. The moment he hears I've lost my memory and forgotten him, he'll be heartbroken beyond repair. For a while, he'll probably do everything he can to please me, clinging desperately, never letting go. How could he dare ignore me? But it's a pity. I can't stand his toxic masculinity. He's too full of that dad energy. Makoto is so much better. Not only does he willingly hand me his savings, but he never tells me what to do. That's what a real man should be like." It wasn't surprising that Maria was so confident. 3 years ago, when I happened to give a speech at my alma mater, I saw her standing under the trees, sunlight filtering through the leaves, and I lost my mind. I stopped her on the spot and asked, "Would you like to be my girlfriend?" Maria knew I was the only heir of the Wong Group, worth billions. She nodded eagerly and said, "Of course I would. I've stayed single all this time just waiting for you, darling." Her sweet lips dripped with honey. Back then, she had never admitted to having any so-called childhood sweetheart. During the 3 years we were together, I spoiled her endlessly. No matter how expensive something was, if she looked at it twice, I would rush to buy it for her. Just like an ancient noble who squandered fortunes on a favorite courtesan. What I loved most was that proud, hard-to-get attitude. But even the finest feast grows dull after too long. In the ward, Maria lifted her head again, frowning impatiently, and said, "Willow, George will definitely come find you after hearing I've lost my memory. He'll beg you to help me recover it. Make sure you don't slip up." The moment she finished her words, just as she expected, I, already hopelessly infatuated, pulled out my phone and sent a message to Willow. "I've fallen for you. $500,000 a month. Be my girlfriend. Deal or not?" Chapter 4. The bullet comments on the screen were getting denser and faster. One read, "What is the male supporting role doing? How could Willow ever fall for him?" Another said, "Ha, playing hard to get. How unoriginal." Then came more, "I can't wait anymore. I want to see the male lead return and reunite with the heroine." And the next, "Just wait a bit longer, the male lead comes back tonight." Inside the small hospital room, a chime sounded from a phone. Willow glanced at her screen, eyes widening as a faint blush crept up her cheeks. Maria smiled confidently and said, "It must be George messaging you." She added, "I've blocked his number. He wouldn't dare contact me on WeChat. He's afraid of making me angry, so he can only reach out to you." She asked eagerly, "Well, he must be worried about my injury, right? Asking how I'm doing." Willow instinctively turned off the screen, hiding her phone behind her back, then squeezed out a muffled affirmative sound from her throat. Maria, more convinced than ever that everything was under her control, spoke cheerfully. "All right, I need to head to the airport to pick up Makoto. If I leave any later, I'll be late." I quietly left the hospital. Just as I stepped out of the outpatient building, my phone buzzed with a WeChat message. It read, "Darling, 100,000 is enough. $500,000 is too much. I wouldn't feel at ease accepting that." Chapter 5. Compared to Maria, Willow was clearly more suited for this kind of business. I hurried back to the villa, calling out to Aunt Wu. I pointed to the south-facing bedroom on the second floor and said, "Clear out everything inside and throw it all away." The housekeeper looked at me in surprise. "Mr. Wong, that's Miss Maria's room. Do you really want to throw away everything in there?" Maria had lived in my villa for 3 years. I treated her like royalty. She never had to lift a finger. Even Aunt Wu, who had watched me grow up, had always taken care of her meticulously. But now that Maria had lost her memory, she'd surely forgotten the way back to this villa. Out with the old, in with the new. It was time for someone new to move in. My tone left no room for doubt as I said, "She won't be coming back. Throw it all out." Over the past 3 years, I had bought Maria far too many things. Her amnesia was just a whim, an impulsive trick born from a minor car accident, leaving her no time to clear her belongings. The servants worked until late at night before the bedroom was finally emptied. Everything, valuable or not, was thrown away without exception. The tone of the bullet comments began to shift. Some said, "Aunt Wu, stop. That's a brand new designer dress. Drop me the address, I'll pick it up. And those limited edition earrings. All that skincare. Oh my god, I'm coming too." Others chimed in. "Young Master Wong, I get it now. I can handle this kind of deal, please. Give me a chance." Can't deny it. The male supporting role is really loaded. But then came a skeptical one. Weren't you all rooting for the sweet love between the leads? How did you all get blinded by the male supporting role's money? That last one was quickly buried under the flood of bullet comments. 8 hours had passed since Maria's amnesia. I had completely cleared her from my life, every item, every trace. Now my world felt empty. What I lacked was simply a companion who could please me. Just as I was about to message Willow, she sent me a video first. In the dim light of a bar's private booth, Maria was nestled in the arms of a young man, gazing up at him with love in her eyes as she said, "Makoto, if George hadn't come between us back then, we would have been together long ago." Chapter 6. In Maria's version of the story, I am a despicable dirty old man who set my eyes on a pure, innocent college girl and used my money to tear apart two lovers. According to her, when she refused me, I threatened to have her childhood sweetheart expelled from school. For the sake of his future, Maria had no choice but to accept me in humiliation. But I remember clearly, 3 years ago, in that dappled forest light, when she heard my confession, her eyes lit up with delight. If she had said she already liked someone else, I would never have wasted my time on her. Girls like her, poor but pretty, line up hoping to catch my attention, whether for my money or my power. They all swear up and down that what they love is me, the person, not what I have. Love itself means nothing to me. All I care about is what I can get out of it. I glanced at the liquor bottles on the table in the video. A bottle of Hennessy, worth tens of thousands. Back when Maria and I were together, that kind of drink was nothing more than an everyday indulgence. I could open as many bottles as I pleased without a second thought. But now, my kept canary had lost her memory and drawn a clear line between herself and her benefactor. She didn't have much money of her own. Though I'd been generous when buying her things, I rarely gave her cash directly. Keeping her dependent on me was the best way to ensure obedience. The only funds Maria could still use were from her secondary card, and whatever savings Makoto had handed over. Given how expensive that private booth was, I didn't hesitate to cancel the secondary card immediately. Then I texted Willow, "Go home early and rest. I want to see you tomorrow." Chapter 7. Maria's eyes were hazy from the alcohol. This was the most comfortable day she'd had in 3 years of being with George. No more cautious pleasing. No more constant submission. She was human too, with her own pride and dignity. A woman's pride is higher than the sky. How could she ever let a man suppress her? George would never learn how to truly please a woman. Makoto, on the other hand, knew exactly how to make her happy. After a few more drinks, the night reached that unspoken point where both sides knew what would happen next. Dry wood, ready for a spark. Willow, after glancing at her WeChat messages, had left first with an unreadable expression. Now, in the spacious private booth, only Maria and Makoto remained. Maria leaned her head on Makoto's shoulder and said, "Tomorrow, let's go shopping for luxury goods. I'll get you a high-end watch to make you look the part." Excitement flared visibly in Makoto's eyes as he said, "Really, Maria? You don't have to spend so much on me." Maria smiled faintly. "What's the big deal? My room's overflowing with luxury items already. I'd love to throw them all out and buy a whole new batch." Bullet comments scrolled across the scene. "Girl, your room's already been emptied. Only the load-bearing walls are left. Ugh. Why isn't the male supporting role following the script? My heart hurts. I want to go pick up the stuff Aunt Wu threw out." Maria raised her hand to call the waiter for the check. She handed over the secondary card. Moments later, the waiter's expression turned awkward. "Miss, this card's been locked," he said. "Perhaps you could try the primary card, or another one." Chapter 8. Maria's call came out of nowhere. I was in the middle of a video call with Willow, trying to figure out exactly what cup size she was, when my mood was suddenly ruined. Annoyed, I answered the phone. Maria's angry voice exploded through the speaker. "George, why did you lock the secondary card?" I lazily glanced at the screen. "So, my little canary finally decided to remove me from her block list." Puzzled, I asked, "I locked my own card. What does that have to do with you?" She snapped, "If you lock the card, how am I supposed to use it?" I replied calmly. "And what exactly is our relationship that gives you the right to use my card?" That single line was enough to shut her up. She went silent. If she admitted she was my girlfriend, it would expose her amnesia as fake. But if she didn't admit it, she wouldn't be able to pay the bill. I'd handed her a problem with no way out. After a few seconds of awkward stammering, Maria finally huffed. "I was planning to get my memory back sooner or later, but now, It seems there's no need to rush. Humph. She hung up first. Bullet comments flashed across the air. Exactly. Don't rush to recover your memory. Let the male supporting role panic for a while. Relax. Once he sees the female lead in another man's arms, he'll be more desperate than anyone. Ugh. I still feel bad. All that good stuff, just thrown in the trash. Don't worry. Once the male supporting role can't take it anymore, he'll start showering her with money again. I stared at the flood of bullet comments, confused. They kept adding drama for the heroine's sake. But honestly, when did I ever say I cared whether she remembered me or not? Chapter 9. In the past, my dates with Maria were always at luxury restaurants, bars, or hotels. But with Willow, I chose somewhere different, at the foot of a mountain. Now, dressed in sportswear and carrying a heavy backpack, I looked up at the towering peak, excitement filling my chest. Willow, puzzled, asked, "Darling, why did you bring so much stuff for a hike? Won't it be tiring?" I waved my hand meaningfully and said, "They're all daily necessities, completely essential." She nodded, still not understanding, then said with sudden determination, "Darling, let me carry it for you." Amused, I asked, "Won't you get tired?" She replied softly, "I won't. Even if I had to carry you to the top, I wouldn't be tired." I sighed and pinched her cheek. "If you can't hold a conversation properly, just don't try too hard next time." She lowered her head and murmured, "I was just afraid you'd stop liking me. After all, it's $100,000 a month. I've got to make sure you feel it's worth every penny." To be fair, I had brought too much. By the time we reached halfway up the mountain, I was already panting heavily. Seeing me exhausted, she sat down beside me, handing me water and wiping my sweat. Watching her focused expression, breathing in her faint perfume, I felt myself surrounded by her presence. Willow was indeed far more alluring than the rice clinger. As night began to fall, we reached the mountaintop. I pointed to the backpack and said, "Let's set up the tent." Willow froze in shock. "Darling, are we staying here tonight?" I frowned. "What, you don't want to?" Could it be that this sexy little wildcat was refusing to spend the night with me outdoors? I've never been one to force anyone, so I pulled out my phone, pressed play on a ringtone, and pretended to take a call as I hung it up. "David, what's wrong?" I said aloud. "What? You got run over by a 100-ton truck. I'm coming to the hospital right now." Seeing I was about to leave, Willow panicked and blurted out, "No, it's not that. I was just worried you'd think the tent was too shabby. That's all. I'd love to spend the night out here with you, darling." Chapter 10. Willow grew a little anxious. Sweat from her temple trickled down her cheek and into the hollow of her throat. I watched, salivating. At 24, youth is exuberant, every emotion wears plainly on the face. I said, "All right, let's hurry and set it up, night's coming." She said, "That David who got run over by a 100-ton truck." I laughed. "He'll be fine. Just superficial wounds. Buy some povidone iodine and wipe it, nothing serious." So we excitedly started pitching the tent. Out of the corner of my eye I saw the bullet comments scroll again. They read, "The male supporting role and the female supporting role are actually kind of a cute ship." Another replied, "But isn't our male lead and female lead's sweetness unmatched? Their love's been so rocky, finally it's about to succeed. Look, the heroine says her home is a villa now and she's taking the male lead back with her." Someone asked, "I assent the villa the male supporting roles." The next comment answered, "She's been living there so long, what's the problem with calling it hers?" Of course there was a problem. I, the owner of that villa, didn't agree. I immediately called Aunt Wu and said, "Aunt Wu, delete Maria's fingerprints, and put the villa off duty tonight, send all the servants home." Chapter 11. When the red Ferrari pulled up to the villa, Maria still had that excited smile on her face. This suburban villa was lavishly decorated. Staying one night here with the person you loved must be so romantic. The car stopped outside in the pitch black. Makoto gaped in shock. "Maria, is this your home?" Maria nodded with a haughty tilt. In her mind she planned not to acknowledge George if they met, let him see her entwined with Makoto and regret it, then throw money at her like a madman to make up for it. Makoto looked at Maria with admiration and mused, "I've only been abroad 3 years and you already have so much. Women these days are truly outstanding. Girls keep improving themselves. Compared to them, we men often don't measure up." Maria didn't directly answer. She snorted softly. "You just came back, you wouldn't know. Men like you are getting rarer." She was about to swipe her fingerprint. Aunt Wu appeared beside the villa, looking impatient, holding a set of car keys and said coldly, "This car belongs to our young Master Wang. We've taken it back. Take a taxi home." With that she opened the door and floored the accelerator. The car sped away and vanished like a phantom. Makoto cried out, "Maria, someone took your car. How did they get your keys?" Maria flushed crimson and made up a casual excuse. "That was my housekeeper, she's been out of it lately. Don't mind her. I'll fire her tomorrow. Let's go home." She reached to press her fingerprint. A cold mechanical voice rang out across the silent mountaintop. Fingerprint error. Chapter 12. Just as we finished setting up the tent, my phone started ringing at the worst possible moment. It was Maria. In just one day, she'd already removed me from her block list twice. I was like a slippery raccoon, always poking my head around the edge of her blacklist. I was holding Willow in my arms, enjoying the mountain night view, so I didn't answer. But the ringtone was like a curse, relentless and insistent. By the 7th call, my patience ran out. I finally picked up. Maria's hysterical voice exploded through the speaker. "George, why did you delete my fingerprint?" I asked calmly. "Sorry, who is this?" Her agitated voice went dead silent. After a few seconds of grinding her teeth, she snapped. "It's Maria," I replied. "So what? What's our relationship again? Why should your fingerprint be registered in my villa?" I threw the question right back at her. Maria seemed determined to keep up the amnesia act. After bottling up her rage, she finally spat out. "Fine, we have nothing to do with each other, but when we meet again one day, you'll regret what you did today." She hung up furiously. I let out a short laugh. After 3 years of seeing her face, I'd long since had enough. What made her think that just seeing her again would make me fall back in love? Chapter 13. Bullet comments rolled across the sky, scolding me for being two-faced. "Stop pretending. Male supporting role. Go coax the female lead already. Maybe she'll realize how good you are and take you back. When you see the male and female leads sweet love, you'll regret everything." Others chimed in. "Don't be fooled. He's only interested in the female lead's bestie because he hasn't seen how affectionate the heroine can be with another man. Exactly. The heroine's way prettier than her best friend." But the bullet comments didn't understand. Yes, Maria was slightly prettier than Willow, but after 3 years together, even the most beautiful face gets dull, especially one attached to a bad temper and zero depth. My tastes had changed. I no longer liked the pure, fragile, White Lotus type. Now, I only liked fiery little wildcats. I lifted Willow's chin and said, "Tonight, I expect you to perform well." Willow froze for a moment, then turned her face slightly away. I frowned again. Was that rejection? I've never liked forcing anyone, so I took out my phone, played a ringtone, and couldn't even be bothered to pretend to set an alarm. Instead, I faked answering a call and said, "David, what's up?" "What? You just escaped from under a 100-ton truck only to get hit by a semi and thrown 300 meters. Stay where you are. I'm calling an ambulance right now." Willow quickly interrupted, panicking. "Darling, I didn't mean no just now. I only meant, the tent's too small. I was worried you wouldn't have enough room to move. Don't you prefer the soft bed of a 5-star hotel, darling?" Chapter 14. It was obvious Willow was truly flustered. She even grabbed my hand and pressed it against her chest. Instantly, my blood surged. "What's so great about a bed?" I said. "Half of a person's life is spent lying on one. Missing a few nights won't ruin anything. Here's perfect. There's the rawness of instinct and the romance of nature." Only then did Willow relax. After a pause, she hesitantly asked, "That's good. By the way, what about that poor soul? The one who got flung by the semi, David?" I waved dismissively. "A scratch like that, he can walk himself to the hospital. At worst, take 2 boxes of antibiotics. The guy's just dramatic, always making a big deal out of nothing." The night wind was gentle. I lost myself in the primal battlefield. In the midst of sweat and breath, Willow's phone rang. I gestured for her to answer it. Her voice was soft, laced with haze and desire. Maria on the other end could hear every note. Maria chuckled lightly. "Sorry, Willow, am I interrupting you too?" Willow bit her lip and said coldly, "If you know you're interrupting, then hang up." Maria was momentarily stung, but still carried on as if nothing had happened. "I'll be brief," she said. "Tell George I'm going to the luxury store tomorrow with Makoto. Make sure he finds out where I'll be. When he sees me being all lovey-dovey with Makoto, let's see if he can still stay calm." After the call ended, Willow looked at me pitifully. She hooked her arms around my neck and asked softly, "Darling, are you really not worried?" I held her by the waist and said slowly, word by word, "How could I be, when I have you? I'm just curious, where did she get the money to shop at a luxury store?" Chapter 15. Back in the day, I often took Maria shopping for luxury goods, necklaces, handbags, whatever caught her fancy, so the sales associates always made sure to notify me first whenever new arrivals came in. Early this morning, one of them called enthusiastically to tell me the new collection had just arrived. Given Willow's excellent performance last night, I thought she deserved a little reward, so I happily took the cable car down the mountain, called David to tag along, and went straight to the store to pick out a gift. Bullet comments scrolled in. I knew it. The male supporting role came to the luxury store to wait for the heroine. See, he can't stay calm when she's with another man. He's so two-faced. In a minute, He'll probably start offering to buy her armfuls of handbags just to get her attention. They rehear. The heroine and her childhood sweetheart just walked in. I turned slightly, glancing behind me. The amnesiac heroine had just entered, arm in arm with Makoto, looking intimate and radiant. According to last night's bullet comments, they hadn't managed to stay in the villa. Faced with Makoto's confusion, Maria had racked her brain for an excuse. The front gate's broken, she'd said. I'll get someone to fix it later. Makoto, ever trusting, believed her without question. Back in college, they had liked each other. When I asked Maria 3 years ago to be my girlfriend, she eagerly said yes, throwing away love for money. Makoto, disillusioned, went abroad for his studies. He was gone for 3 years, but upon returning, the faint memory had become the deepest scar on Maria's heart, one she now claimed she'd abandon everything to heal with him. The luxury store wasn't large. Maria spotted me almost immediately. Her lips curved into a confident smile. She gave a cold snort, looked me over with disdain, and said loftily, "George, I've completely forgotten who you are. No matter how much you chase me, I won't even spare you another glance." Chapter 16. Makoto looked me up and down a few times, then pulled Maria closer with a smug grin. "George, I heard you were Maria's ex-boyfriend," he said, "but too bad, she got into that car accident, lost her memory, and forgot you completely. Now she only remembers me, no matter how unwilling you are." "George, it's pointless." They were both unbearably noisy. I simply pointed to a few necklaces I'd picked out for Willow and a wristwatch worth over $1 million. "Wrap these up," I said calmly. Maria let out a derisive laugh. "George, I've already forgotten you. Why are you still clinging to me like a piece of sticky tape? Do you think buying me a few necklaces will win back my heart? I only have Makoto in my heart now. No matter how desperately you chase after me, I won't even glance your way." But Makoto's eyes were glued to the price tag of the watch I held. Maria noticed it too. She snorted and said, "George, you really are selfish. A decent man would give the best things to his woman, afraid she might live a rough life. But you buy yourself $1 million watch and try to fob me off with a few cheap necklaces worth tens of thousands." Seeing my expression darken, she rolled her eyes and added, "How about this, George, if you give the watch to Makoto, I might consider taking your number off my block list. But don't get any ideas. The only man I love will always be Makoto." Chapter 17. That arrogance of hers, that was something I had created. I liked watching someone act proud, precisely because I had the power to crush that pride at any moment. That feeling, of holding everything in the palm of my hand, was what I loved most. Maria didn't have much money of her own. The only reason she dared stand in front of me like this was because she thought my jealousy would make me try to please her, that I'd voluntarily cover the expenses for her and her precious childhood sweetheart. I spread my hands and finally asked what I'd been thinking all along. "Maria, when exactly did I say I cared about your lost memory? Can your memory make my company's stock price soar? Can it solve any of my business problems?" Maria froze on the spot, frowning in confusion. "But that's 3 years of everything we shared," she murmured. I shrugged. "Just 3 years of eating, drinking, and playing around. So what if it's forgotten? What's there to miss? Do you really think that without you, I can't spend another 3 years eating, drinking, and having fun with someone else?" David clapped a hand on my shoulder and chimed in. "Exactly, without you, we can still eat, drink, and have fun with my godfather." Maria shook her head firmly. "No, I don't believe you really don't care about those 3 years. You're pretending to be indifferent just so I'll stay in your life, aren't you?" Chapter 18. That day, both of their wishes fell flat. There were no necklaces worth tens of thousands, nor $1 million watch. After David and I left, Maria had intended to buy Makoto that watch as promised, but the sales associate's cold voice stopped her. "This watch isn't available for sale," she said. "The only one left is a display model. You might want to look at something else, like a fly swatter, a globe, or maybe a mahjong table." The implication was clear. If they wanted the watch, they had to buy a lot of other items first. The required bundle purchase price nearly scared them senseless. With their thin wallets, no amount of posturing could make them look rich. So, hand in hand, they fled the store in embarrassment. Later that day, Maria updated her WeChat moments. Though she had my phone number blocked, she'd intentionally kept me unblocked on WeChat so she could show off. Her post read, "After all the twists and turns, my world still revolves around you." Attached was a selfie of her and Makoto, taken at a revolving restaurant on the top floor of a shopping mall. The two of them cuddled close, smiling at the camera. Chapter 19. In the photo, Makoto's expression looked strained. Back in college, his family background had been similar to Maria's, modest, nothing special. Studying abroad had wiped out his family's savings. He'd only returned home after spotting Maria's face in a society column about a charity gala attended by the elite. Believing he'd found his ticket to a better life, he'd gone all in, flattering her endlessly, simping without shame, and even handing over his last savings to prove his devotion. Hoping to climb up through her connections, Maria played her part well, convincing Makoto she had truly become a high society woman. But after returning, he soon realized he'd gained nothing. Worse, Maria had nearly emptied what little money he had left. Makoto began to feel like a pawn in some grand capitalist scheme, and it was hard to keep smiling through that. Bullet comments filled the air. What's going on? In the original storyline, weren't the male and female leads supposed to be super sweet right now? Why are they arguing? Of course they're arguing. In the original version, the male supporting role was a total simp, constantly throwing money and luxury gifts at the heroine, begging her to come back. But now he's stopped simping, and what do we have? Two broke college grads with no money for romance. Another comment read, now that the male supporting role can see her WeChat posts, just wait, if the heroine keeps showing off every day, he'll get jealous and start chasing her, begging her to recover her memory. And one more chimed in, forget that, I'd rather watch the male supporting role and the best friend, the domineering CEO and his wild little cat. That's the dynamic I love. I read through every comment carefully, then glanced at the plane tickets I had just bought. Willow was so considerate it made my heart ache. She'd insisted that money doesn't grow on trees, since we'd agreed on a payment of $100,000 a month. She wouldn't take a cent more. She even wanted to deduct part of her travel expenses from her own fee. To make it up to her, I decided to take her on an overseas speed tour, a whirlwind vacation. Just as the bullet comments finished scrolling, I saw Maria update her WeChat again. She was clearly determined to flaunt her new romance in front of me. This time, her post showed 2 electronic theme park tickets. The caption read, it's never been about the money, it's about attitude. Time may pass, but he never forgets his promise to take me to the amusement park. At that moment, Willow leaned in and wrapped herself around my arm, swaying playfully. Darling, she said, you still haven't posted me on your moments yet. Her playful tone made my head spin. I snapped a photo of our intertwined fingers, uploaded it to my moments, and captioned it, Maldives. Here we come. Chapter 20. The plane landed smoothly at Valana International Airport. I glanced at Willow with satisfaction. No wonder she was my little wildcat, so full of energy. After a long flight, she was still bouncing around as if she hadn't just spent hours in the air. After checking into the hotel, Willow finally pulled out her phone. She had dozens of missed calls and a flood of unread messages on WeChat. At first, Maria's tone still held some patience. Sis, did you see George's post on WeChat moments? He's trying to make me jealous, took some random woman to the Maldives for a show-off photo. Ha, does he think I'd fall for that? Why aren't you replying? I've been calling you nonstop. Where are you right now? Has George contacted you about me? Before she could even scroll to the end of the messages, Maria's call came through again. Willow answered lazily. Maria, what's up? Maria sounded desperate. Has George contacted you recently? Willow turned her head slightly toward me, then answered truthfully. He contacts me every day. She wasn't lying. I had been contacting her, constantly. Hearing that, Maria let out a breath of relief and even laughed softly. I knew it. George still has me in his heart. He's just pretending to be cold so I'll come crawling back first. But how could a woman with amnesia lower her pride like that? Unless he sincerely apologizes and changes his arrogant attitude, I won't give him the time of day. I couldn't help but chuckle quietly. Maria's sharp instincts caught the sound immediately. I heard a man's voice. She said, intrigued. You've got something going on, don't you? Is it that guy from before? Willow huffed. Yeah, it's him. Maria sighed enviously. You two sound so romantic, always glued together. Where are you lovebirds now? Willow replied, Maldives. What a coincidence. Maria's voice brightened instantly. George said he went to the Maldives too. Keep an eye out for me, will you? See if he's with another woman. Chapter 21. Willow and I wandered across the many beaches of the Maldives. As the sun set, I held her hand, our feet sinking into the soft sand. She looked curiously toward a group of divers nearby. Darling, do you want to go diving later? She asked, but it was obvious she was the one who wanted to go. Still, Willow knew her place perfectly well. Even when I indulged her, she never forgot her role. When she saw something she liked, her pretty face would flush faintly pink, and she'd ask, timidly, almost teasingly, if I liked it too. If I did, she'd beam like a child who'd just gotten candy. If I didn't, she'd quickly pull her gaze away. Unlike Maria, Willow never barked orders or acted superior. I followed her gaze out to the ocean and said, all right, let's give it a try. Her eyes lit up with pure delight. After strapping on her diving gear, she grabbed my hand, and together we carefully slipped beneath the surface. Schools of damselfish darted all around us, shimmering in the filtered sunlight. And then, unbelievably, the bullet comments began scrolling through the water. Thanks to the male supporting role, I finally get to see what the Maldives looks like. Why isn't anyone watching the male and female leads anymore? Someone replied. What's there to watch? They argue 3 times a day. Last time, the male lead demanded his savings back, and the heroine slapped him, calling him a freeloader. Another chimed in. See, without the male supporting role's money, there's no sweet love story left, and one more appeared. I still can't stop thinking about all those luxury goods Aunt Wu threw away, followed by another. Girl, let it go. Aunt Wu tossed out 19 haute couture dresses, 12 pairs of designer heels, and 6 diamond necklaces exactly 17 days and 15 hours ago. I barely even remember them now. Then came the latest line. Shoo, look, the male and female leads are fighting again. Chapter 22. Maria was furious. She couldn't understand it. Before they got together, Makoto had been her white moonlight, the one she longed for in every sleepless night. But after just half a month together, her white moonlight had somehow turned into a rice clinger. All because she'd let him buy her a simple bracelet. Now he wanted his savings back. Makoto rubbed his temples, his head throbbing. He didn't understand either. Why did dating Maria have to cost so much? Why was she so obsessed with luxury goods? His last few $1,000s of savings had bought nothing more than a piece of metal that couldn't be eaten, couldn't be used, and lost value the moment it left the store. Now he didn't even have a cent left. The French restaurant before them was expensive, and after hesitating for a long time, he finally mustered the courage to say, Maria, could you pay for this meal? Maria exploded. Why should I pay? What kind of man makes a girl pay for dinner? Makoto's patience snapped. When have you ever paid for anything? Why shouldn't you pay for once? His voice rose. The diners around them turned their heads, their curious stares burning Maria's face crimson. Makoto gritted his teeth and went on. So that's how it is. Huh? You finally said what you really think. If you're so against paying, then what was that stunt last time, pretending you'd pick up the bill, then saying your card didn't work so I'd have to do it? Are you one of those bar hustlers? I see your game now. You act all high class just to find a sucker to wine and dine you, right? You can't even afford your own life, can you? Maybe you should start selling yourself if you're that desperate. Laughter rippled through the restaurant. Makoto threw down his utensils and stormed out without looking back. Maria's eyes filled with tears. She wanted to disappear. She regretted everything. She shouldn't have thrown away her comfortable life for some illusion of love. Sitting in the over-air-conditioned restaurant, her hands and feet cold, Maria pulled out her phone. She opened Willow's chat, typed and deleted several times, then finally gathered the courage to send a message. Sis, did you run into George in the Maldives? Is there another woman with him? It took half a day before Willow finally replied. There's no woman beside George, except me. Maria's heart eased instantly. Of course George still liked her. He must be in the Maldives begging Willow for help every day, desperately searching for a way to restore her memory. Chapter 23. The moment Willow and I stepped off the plane, the bullet comments were already flooding the screen in dense waves. What happened? Why did the male and female leads break up? I didn't even get 1 minute of sweet romance. The heroine regrets it now. She's planning to find the male supporting role and tell him she's regained her memory. Another line followed. I declare that the heroine is now the side character. George and Willow are the new leads. Thanks to them, I feel like I've just taken a trip to the Maldives myself. Absolutely satisfying. Look, Maria's waiting outside the villa for the male lead. At that moment, I was driving Willow toward the villa. Outside, rain poured down in torrents, thunder and lightning splitting the sky. Just as the comments said, even from a distance I could see a figure crouching beneath the eaves by the gate. According to the bullet comments, Maria had been camping outside my villa every day since breaking up with Makoto, waiting for my return from the Maldives. This was already her 13th day. When my familiar license plate came into view, I saw, by the glow of the headlights, the spark of excitement and anticipation in her eyes. I stepped out of the car, umbrella in hand, frowning at her. Maria's voice was trembling with joy, though she tried hard to steady it, lowering her tone to sound calm. George, I have good news, she said. I've regained my memory. Chapter 24. Those words hit my ears like bad news, and a dull pain shot through my head. Who on earth cared whether she'd lost or regained her memory? Since her so-called amnesia, I had never once said I wished she'd remember me. But Maria seemed possessed by the idea that I longed for those 3 years we'd spent together. Annoyed, I looked straight at her. What does your memory loss have to do with me? I said flatly. Why do you have to keep chasing me just to tell me that? Lightning flashed, and in its glare I could clearly see the color drain from her face. She shook her head violently. No, George, you still like me. I know you do. Now that I remember everything, let's go back to how we were. Let me be your girlfriend again. All right. I stared at her, startled. When were you ever my girlfriend? She stammered. George, We were together for 3 years. Didn't your phone contact list have me saved as girlfriend? I pulled out my phone, held it up to her face, and said coldly, "Take a closer look, it says Rice Klinger." Maria's face went pale as paper. Her lips trembled before she finally forced a smile. "George, I know you're angry because I forgot you," she said softly, "but changing my contact name won't hide the fact that you still love me. Besides, you don't have any other woman by your side. Isn't that proof enough?" Before she could finish, Willow calmly stepped out of the passenger seat. Maria hurried toward her. "Willow, please help me talk to George," she pleaded. "He's just being stubborn. He doesn't want to admit he still loves me. He's been in the Maldives all this time, and there wasn't a single woman with him." Her voice trailed off as Willow gracefully slipped her arm through mine, ignoring Maria completely. "Darling," she said with a radiant smile, "you must be tired. Let's go inside and rest." Maria stumbled backward, nearly losing her balance. A flash of lightning illuminated her shocked, bloodless face. Her voice broke as she pointed at Willow. You two, what's your relationship?" Willow's smile bloomed, bright and proud. "I already told you," she said. "In the Maldives, there was no woman beside George, except me." Chapter 25. Maria's face twisted through a spectrum of emotions. Anger, despair, pain, all of them blending together until they erupted into a hysterical scream. "Willow, I treated you like my best friend, and you dared to steal my men while I was suffering from amnesia." She raised her hand, ready to slap Willow. Rice Klinger, always dramatic, always unreasonable, but Willow easily caught her wrist midair. With a faint, mocking hum, she said, "What do you mean, steal your men? You're with Makoto now. That makes George single. Why shouldn't I be with him? And besides, were you really ever amnesiac?" Maria's eyes darted away from mine, unable to meet them. I just. Her words tangled on her tongue. She couldn't finish a sentence. I had never cared whether Maria's memory was gone or not. Fresh off the plane, fatigue was already setting in. I waved a hand lazily. "Enough. I don't care if you've lost your memory or not," I said flatly. "I just got back from a long flight. I'm tired and going to rest. Oh, and Willow, let's plan a trip to Hawaii sometime." Willow's eyes lit up, and she nodded eagerly. Maria stood there, drenched, trembling as she realized her best friend had replaced her. The rain poured harder. Her voice cracked as she asked, almost pleading, "George, we were together for 3 years. Why did you never take me on trips? Why was it always a hotel?" I pressed a finger to my lips and said, "Shoo, your worth was in the hotel. The poetry and the faraway places, I've reserved those for someone else." Chapter 26. The villa doors shut, sealing Maria's voice outside. Through the heavy curtain of rain, I could still hear her desperate cries. "George, I was wrong. Please, just look back at me once. I'll give you my life if that's what it takes." Her voice was raw, sincere even. I knew she understood the value of money, but in her fantasy, this whole amnesia act was supposed to win her both love and wealth. Too greedy, and in the end, she got neither. Willow, meanwhile, wrinkled her nose in disdain, offering useless things again. She scoffed, as if her life were some kind of luxury good. I couldn't help laughing. "Willow, starting tomorrow, move in with me." She froze, hesitating for a brief second. My brows furrowed. Was she refusing? I'd never been one to force anyone. This time, I didn't even bother faking a ringtone. I simply lifted my phone to my ear. "Hello, David. What's up this late?" "What? You fell into the ocean and found Nemo beside you? Don't worry, I'll head out right now too." Before I could finish, Willow interrupted smoothly, already familiar with the act. "Darling, I was only worried I'd disturb your peace if I moved in," she said sweetly. "I'll go pack my things right now." Chapter 27. Her nose was barely an inch from mine. Her soft breath brushed against my cheek, warm and teasing. I tossed my phone aside and asked, "Not being forced, right?" She smiled. "Not at all." "All right then," I said. "It's late. You can move in tomorrow. Let's get some rest for tonight." "Okay," she murmured, then paused. "But that David who's still floating somewhere out in the open sea." I waved a hand dismissively. "Not a big deal. He can swim 3,000 miles and wash up on the Australian coast. It's barely a thumb's distance on the map, yet he has to call me about it." Willow pouted softly, then leaned closer, whispering, "Darling, from now on, whatever you say, I'll agree right away. Just please, don't bring up David again." I smirked. "You don't get it. That's just how we are." As if to prove my point, my phone rang again, David's girlfriend this time. Her anxious voice came through the speaker. "George, David said you've got a 45-degree fever, and he went to the hospital to check on you, so he can't come pick me up. Is that true?" I instantly shifted into a weak, dying tone. "Ah, yes. 45 degrees. The thermometers already exploded 3 times. David went downstairs to buy me some late-night food. Don't worry. He'll call you back once he's back. And yes, he still loves you. Outside, the rain drummed steadily against the glass window. In the distance, the floating bullet comments grew faint, fading like mist in the night. Another male lead has broken free from his scripted fate, no longer a simp. No longer wasting his fortune as a woman's stepping stone. Same as always. In the next book, the opening bullet comments should scold him harder, so he'll hit rock bottom faster, and find the will to change. And finally, the last line scrolled by. This small world's stable now, brothers. Let's move on to the next one. Chapter 28, Extra, Maria. I moved into a cramped little attic, cold in winter, stifling in summer. Ever since I met George, my life had been completely transformed. No more worrying about rent or bills. No more struggling for a bit of money. Those warm, comfortable days had made me miss Makoto even more. That longing, day after day, year after year, had grown like a tree in my heart, its roots deep and its branches high. It was that yearning that inspired my idea to pretend I'd lost my memory, to win both love and money, but I never imagined George would cast me aside so easily. Turning instead to Willow without a backward glance. I didn't understand. I was prettier than Willow, so why had he chosen her? After half a month in that tiny rented room, penniless and hungry, I finally went out to find work, thanks to a face that still drew attention. I landed a job as a waitress. The restaurant was on the top floor of a luxury building, a favorite spot for the rich to dine. Once upon a time, I had been one of those rich diners. Not the one serving them. Now, I weaved between tables instead of sitting at them. In my 3rd month on the job, I met George again. He was still as confident and refined as ever, far better than Makoto, who only knew how to talk sweetly but never deliver. The moon that once fell into dust had become a shackle, while a drop of mosquito blood was polished by time into a pearl. He hadn't changed, and beside him, of course, was Willow. The awkwardness of seeing them together made me turn away, too ashamed to approach. I watched another waitress bring them the menu. Willow accepted it and began ordering a few dishes. I sneered quietly. None of those were the dishes George used to order. I refused to believe a woman like her could stay by his side for long. But then I heard George's satisfied voice. Willow, how did you know these are my favorites? Willow smiled softly. You mentioned it once. Darling, I just remembered. George chuckled. I'm so much happier with you. Not like some people before, always ordering what they wanted, never remembering what I liked. My heart jolted. Only then did I realize, when I'd been with George, every meal we ordered had been what I liked, never what he did. I couldn't bring myself to approach them through the whole meal. Only when they were about to leave did I finally gather every bit of courage I had left and called out softly. George. He turned around. I stared into his eyes, full of fragile hope, hoping he might say he still thought of me, that he still loved me, even a little. But George only curled his lips into a faint, knowing smile and said, Who are you? I just lost my memory a few days ago. As for people who didn't matter in the past, I've already chosen to forget them first.